When I think of the mobile gaming industry, the first thing I think of are awful, yucky, and stinky ripoff games with bad controls that are generally just, not great. But the average person might think of some of the games by Voodoo. Numbers-wise, Voodoo could very well be the most recognizable mobile game company around. And with games like Paper.io, Paper.io 2, and Paper.io 3D. Why are there 4 of these? I wouldn't be surprised if they really are the biggest mobile game company around. So come with me as I take a look at some repetitive Voodoo games. So the first game is Paper.io. I'm not sure what's new about it, seeing that the game was released in 2016, but you do you, I guess. This is actually the first major success published by Voodoo, and it's relatively well known in the realm of mobile gaming. The design philosophy is similar to other .io games, like Agario or Slither.io. In the game, your goal is to cover as much space as possible to become the #1 player on the leaderboard. Every round starts in the same way. Every player spawns at once, and you and the real human players start taking some territory. Yeah! I'm the best player ever! The first place player on the leaderboard gets a crown above their head. However, it's purely cosmetic. Now you might notice that the game's a bit laggy. Well, I was actually able to fix it by turning off my phone's internet. And even though the gameplay and leaderboard suggests that the game is online, it worked completely fine with no internet connection. That means that this, and pretty much every other Voodoo game, prefer to use bots over any actual players. So why have a leaderboard if there aren't any people to go up against? Well, the game wants the positives that come with multiplayer games, like a feeling of competition, and the addictiveness and satisfaction gained from beating actual people, but with none of the shortcomings, like server costs, connection issues, or having to have a consistent player base. The gameplay gets repetitive after being played for more than a few rounds at a time, but that's really all it's trying to be, so I don't see anything wrong with that. Just don't go in expecting to see anything substantial. Next we have one of their most popular games, Dune. Dune is a decently high quality game. It kind of follows the Flappy Bird idea of having to do a certain thing enough times to get a high score, and while in Flappy Bird that thing is going through pipes, in Dune that thing is jumping over the white line. I really like the visual style for this game. Its simple 2D graphics don't look ugly but also aren't too distracting. Something really important for these types of games is the method of controlling it, and Dune pulls that off really well. You can change your speed and floatiness by just swiping in a direction, and the game stays consistent with its set of rules. If you land downwards too sharply, you won't make the landing, but you get rewarded for landing smoothly, which you could only do by going downwards at certain points. This encourages you to take risks. There's also a shop in the game where you could select different skins for the ball and the terrain around you. Overall, I think Dune is most likely the best Voodoo game I've played. You can tell that there was at least someone who put some actual effort and care into this game, rather than just pushing something out to get a paycheck, and that makes the game a lot more enjoyable. Now here's a real good one. This one's called Reddit. As you can see, it's actually #1 on the news section. Good for Voodoo for branching out and making something new. I'm proud. So in this game, you have to sell your soul to gaming to get as many Reddit points as possible. However, there isn't a shop to spend your gamer points, so you'll never be able to buy some grass to go touch it. Honestly, it seems a bit different from their other stuff. They've really outdone themselves, I gotta say. Though it seems like a lot of people joke about the fan base being obese, so maybe it's best to stay away from this one. Oh, wait. Oh, the game I'm actually playing is Woodturning 3D. Not sure how Reddit got into the script, I'm sorry about that. Anyways, Woodturning 3D. The gameplay loop is pretty much the same thing every time. A character walks up to you and asks you to turn some wood in the 3rd dimension. And then they'll give you a prize. You can say yes or no, but you definitely want to say no. That's because the person after them always gives a higher rate than the person before. So you just say no to people until you can get the best deal possible. The game also wants you to watch an ad to get to the best deal, but there's actually a really easy way to avoid doing that. Basically, if you just turn the Wi-Fi off your device, it skips to the game instead of playing an ad. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now we're actually turning wood in the game about turning wood. And we do this by moving your finger around the outline of the object that needs to be made. For some objects you need a bit more precision, so there are other options when it comes to tools. Then you switch to the sanding phase, where you kind of just rub against the wood for a few seconds. Then we make it to the painting phase. The game doesn't tell you to paint in a specific color or pattern, so you can just paint it however you want. Or you can just not paint it at all. But here's the thing. Even though the game uses a percentage-based system, it doesn't actually matter. That's because the game implements a sneaky little trick to keep you playing for longer. When you slightly miss the line, it automatically puffs back up to the line when you switch to the sanding phase. This means that you're either gonna get something significantly less than 100% or just a perfect 100. Maybe they did this because the little children get more dopamine if they get 100% accuracy instead of 97, but it ends up just feeling like the game is desperately trying to tell you you're special for the sole purpose of keeping you playing. Overall, this game really isn't anything special. There's never any progression in the difficulty, and you'll never be able to actually get used to the game's mechanics. And since the game takes little to no skill to play anyways, it ends up feeling empty from beginning to end. Now here's Twisty Road. The aesthetic of the game feels really empty compared to the other games. I think that's due to the background being a dark void enveloping everything around it. So basically, you're a ball, and your goal is to make it to the end of the level. The levels are these winding pathways that kinda remind me of Rainbow Road from Mario Kart. The paths don't change much in different levels, only really changing in color. You lose if you fall off the side of the road, but you can also skip to later parts of the track by jumping off intentionally. There's a similar game to this called Aquapark.io. The main difference between the two is that Aquapark lets you straight up skip to the end of the level, while Twisty Road makes you fade away if you're off the road for too long. Something interesting to note is that the level changes when you respawn, so if you fall off you don't actually need to remember the layout of the level, not like it matters much anyways, because the levels are all, again, pretty much the same. The path always goes downwards, and the only neat thing I saw was a section of a level that was a bit thinner than usual. Ooh. Like most other Voodoo games, this game also has a shop where you could buy skins for the ball and different patterns for the road. There isn't really much to talk about here, as it's just the same thing over and over again. Lastly, we have Crowd City. This one follows a different formula than the rest of the game. Basically, you go around a map and you have to increase in volume in order to once again be number 1 on the leaderboard. Obviously, this isn't the only Voodoo game to do this, as this formula was taken from another one of their games, Hole.io. So when they aren't stealing from others, they're stealing from themselves. While it looks decently enjoyable on the surface, there are a number of things done by Voodoo to make sure you're giving them as much money as possible. For example, even though there aren't any actual people playing against you, the game still forces you to be connected to the internet, and, like every other Voodoo game, it runs way better when you're not connected to the internet. So you just have to sit back and live with the fact that this game is never gonna run as good as it should. The goal of the game is to get as many people to join your group to become the biggest group. The way to do this is to go after other groups. The deciding factor as to who wins a fight all comes down to who's bigger, and as you go in to attack someone, you start to take members off the other group and convert it to your own until you fully assimilate all those people into your cult. Even though each round is only 2 minutes long, the game still feels a need to have a halftime. And of course, the game gives you an ad. And again, you can't disable the Wi-Fi or else the video game dies instantly. Overall, Crowd City is a piece of garbage that runs like garbage and also looks like garbage. Play a game that actually has you spending more time playing the game than watching ads. Something you'll notice with the selection of games that I chose a lot of games with different styles and levels of quality. Games published by Voodoo tend to vary widely in style and presentation. This is due to them trying to create variety by pandering to every genre of mobile game, whether it's fake.io games, simulators, or whatever the hell this is. The repetitive nature of these games means they get boring when played for more than just a few minutes at a time, but each and every one of Voodoo's games are kinda made for this sort of thing, just a quick way to kill a few minutes. But you know what could do that better? TikTok. Now, I absolutely hate short form content. I think it was able to draw my attention span by 99% after watching only a few hours of YouTube Shorts, and I'd much rather watch something with more time and effort put into it. But as a way to get some quick entertainment while waiting for an appointment or waiting for the bus, I feel like Shorts are way more diverse than playing the same Voodoo games over and over again. Also, I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. I found a game for baddies. It's actually the Terror Discord server. In this game, you can, talk to people, not go outside, and yeah, that's about it.